Hello, everyone. I'm Lady Pink, artist from New York. I don't call myself a graffiti artist. I haven't done that in a few decades, like actual illegal graffiti. I'm just an artist muddling through life. So to put into perspective, when I came into the movement of the modern day graffiti, I mean, as you all know, man has been scribbling on walls since we did, lovely artwork in caves at the dawn of humanity and all, and it's just been in our nature to kind of leave a little mark behind that says, I came through here, I exist, here I am. In a city of millions and millions in New York City, that was very important. We feel like little nobodies, and you have to tag up. So there was already a lively movement, a decade old. There was already protocol, hierarchy. There was, the way things were done were already written down. And when I came in to the movement, all the ladies from the 1970s had already quit. They'd moved on with life, so I was the only female amongst about 10,000 guys. And at first, graffiti started off real primitive in the neighborhoods as tagging. In the early 70s, it went on to the subway trains. By the mid 70s, some of the biggest pieces had been done. In 76, two groups pulled out 10 whole cars. The Fabulous Five with Lee and Kane One did the Freedom Train for the bicentennial, the 1976. And no, the police were not as impressed by that. But so these guys had done top to bottom whole cars end to end. I was 12 years old when I saw one of these babies, and I didn't know what I was looking at. I thought the transit actually did this. They paid artists to paint these beautiful things, but I was a kid. Not until later on did I realize I had a lot to catch up on. First, overcoming the hurdle of being a female and convincing the guys to take me to the train yards. They were like, no, you're a female, you're a liability, you'll slow us down, get us arrested, and so on and so on. And the stereotypes of, the girls slowing it down, falling at the end, and the monster gets them when you're all running for your lives, So I didn't want to be that. And I was a tomboy through and through. I had to prove myself that I could scale fences, climb walls, hide underneath a bush for 2 hours in the rain while the police are surrounding us and not lose my cool. And, I had nerves of steel, but then I was a very precocious, very brave and reckless young teenager. I had to prove myself amongst a lot of tough guys. The boys didn't make it easy. There was a lot of hostility. There was a lot of sexism coming from like 10, 12-year-old boys telling me, you can't paint graffiti because you're a girl. The same kind of conviction that we would say, well, you can't have a baby because you're a boy. It was like, well, watch me paint graffiti. So I didn't even weigh 100 pounds, skinny little kid, but I had more guts than I had body weight. So I was down there proving myself. And then a girl's reputation goes down the drain when you're sneaking out of your house and wandering off with like 5 guys. What are people going to think, honestly? So, but then, guys are also, they're not so very nice. They they flirt with you, try to get with you. And then when you turn them down, they will turn around and tell their boys the opposite. Yeah, I got her on her knees and so on. So your reputation really suffers. Guys were believing that, I was, doing the nasty with the boys to get my name on the train and not me actually painting the stuff, but, doing God. Oh my God. So I had to paint with different groups in all corners of New York City so that boys could actually watch me paint and see I'm doing my own thing. I'm not having sex with a bunch of random characters for this. So that is the nature of when a woman is going out at night with a bunch of guys and other people will talk and say nasty things. So whatever. As long as my real friends and family knew I wasn't that and I was just carrying on doing my thing. So at the same age at 16, I painted this at the age of 18. Picture that, self-taught. At the age of 16, I was invited to be in the very first exhibit. This was 1980. The exhibit was curated by Crash. He literally came to my high school and invited me to be in their exhibit because the feminist movement was affecting the guys as well. It wasn't just the girls fighting for their freedom and burning their bras. It was the guys supporting us. They believed in me. And they wanted a female in the group. They felt, maybe 20 guys was more than enough. We needed one female. And she was 16 years old and still going to the High School of Art and Design. And that's where they came to fetch me. I was still a toy. I could barely do straight lines with spray paint. But now I was painting with the best of the best, the elite. This was Crash and Days and Lee, Dondi, Futura, all of these guys that are in the exhibit here, they were in their early 20s. They had already quit graffiti, and they were moving on to galleries. And then there was me. And that's how I felt, being the only female in the group of guys, like in literally in the garden of penises. So holding my own. But it wasn't all bad. You know, I was a pretty good looking little dish. I had brains on me. Teenage boys are easy to manipulate. And I was surrounded by hundreds of handsome young outlaws. So, you know, it was terrible for me, honestly. It was terrible. So the first exhibits was just a trial. They told us in the arts that, you know, the art market is fickle and this could evaporate. So the early 80s, there was Fashion Moda, PS1, the new museum, and gallery after gallery. And then we're going abroad to Europe, and paintings are selling like hotcakes, and all of us have a nice hefty bank account. So as a teenager, of course, I squandered my money as a teenager should, and with my friends, entourage, and travel, and drugs, and all kinds of fun stuff. So, but Crash was a good example of how to invest your money and save it. So we mentored each other as we came along in the art world. There wasn't anyone. We didn't go to school to learn how business on the arts. We learned the hard way. Some of us were exploited. Some of us were robbed. Some of us were abused and all, but we all teach each other. Don't do that again. Don't work with those people, because that's what they're about. So we've kept a network of tight-knit friends, and that is the graffiti writers. Now there is street art nowadays, and there's murals all over the world, and it's a different kind of animal. It is kind of like a blanket term, like rock and roll would be. There's pop, punk, metal, even hip hop is considered rock and roll. It's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I don't make that up. So street art is that. There's the graffiti writers. We specialize in fonts and letters and spray paint, and we love to get things on wheels that roll, trains, buses, whatever. We love to paint illegally. And then there's the street artists. They work in different mediums. They work in wood, metal, stickers, stencils, posters, knitting, glass, rubber bands, whatever medium can get themselves arrested. It is street art. So they don't have the kind of kinship, clanship, or dysfunctional family the way the graffiti writers do. We're like a guild, and you are invited to be in certain crews. You get respect. You get doors that open for you in whatever part of the world that you go. Some of the other street artists don't nearly have that kind of support. But yeah. I mean, I paint murals all over the world, and you can see examples of all the different kinds of work that I do. So it started with the gallery exhibits. There were motion picture wild style that no one took seriously. You know, we did not know that it was going to become a cult film still being played today or be the core of the hip hop movement. No, we didn't know that. It was just another rich white guy with a film crew following us around, and we were just doing silly things. No one took the book seriously or the documentaries, or even realized that we would be around still 40 years later. You know, we imagine this is just, this is a fun ride while it lasts, but eventually we're all going to have to get real jobs. This can't possibly be a career, falling into the arts like that. But sure enough, this is exactly what it became. Like, this is an example of the first wall that I did, funded by New York City. And I put in for my funding with press clippings that clearly say I'm a graffiti writer, but I'm a good girl of graffiti and such. And so therefore the funding came in, and I realized, wow, you just need to fill out an application and you get loads of money. That's pretty easy. So, that's grant writing if you've got the patience for it and such. But whenever given the opportunity, I will do something political. I will do something political, but mostly the freedom with that comes in a gallery space or an exhibit space where you can do something political or social or make a statement. Most street walls, they are given permission by a landlord. They ask, don't do nothing crazy, nothing controversial, nothing political. We got to live here. Neighbors live here. We'll get complaints. So please just do something decorative. It's only in exhibit spaces where we can get away with doing a statement and a political something like that. And I was feeling, I had to fight against George Bush, and I've also done, stuff against other political people, as you guys will see. This is Alice Paul. She was instrumental in getting us the vote in 1920. We did a wonderful big wall, 30 women muralists painting together in Brooklyn, and not graffiti artists, just like muralists, brush artists. It was amazing to be part of a group of women. So in the late 80s, the slowdown of the paintings did happen as predicted, and they weren't selling nearly as much, but some of us resisted in getting actual real jobs, because that will sap the spirit of an artist, mind you. So I fell in with a couple of high school friends doing commission murals for businesses, restaurants, nightclubs. You know, this is a gym in Salem, Massachusetts. Hence the imagery there that reflects Salem. This is an Art Deco style restaurant in Long Island. In Long Island, lots of wall space, lots of loads and loads of money. So one job leads to another recommendation. These artists meet the deadline. They do a good job. They're quick, no nonsense. That graffiti stuff taught us to be fast, and it definitely paid off. So you know, I paid off my 30-year mortgage in 15 years. And my husband that I married, who is a notorious graffiti writer, we've been married 30 years. Some of his work is displayed there. I made him quit his job right off and start working with me. He's been my executive assistant and partner my whole life. He's the computer expert and the grounded one that does all the business. And honestly, you know, doing these kinds of jobs like that, being a Latina woman, did not get me nearly as much money as I thought I deserved. But I married the white guy with blue eyes, and I push him to the forefront to do the talking for the money. And when he asks for, you know, loads and loads of money, he gets it, because that's what those blue eyes and white skin does, because that's what this world is. That's what this America is all about. Being a Latina woman did not get me those prices. But so, you know, we'll play the game the way it's played. Thank you. So I'll talk creative, I'll talk the art, I'll talk themes and that artistic stuff. And then a white guy comes forward, he's talking accounting, he's talking, you know, thousands of dollars and invoices and such. And that's how business is done. So it's, you know, this is the Maury Povich show. I painted with like 3 out of control teenagers. You can see them right there. 15-year-old girls that were acting out and saying like, yeah, I had sex for a hamburger. It's like, oh God, I got to paint with these kids. But sure enough, at the end of the day, we painted that, and those girls were jumping up and down in the street, crying and pointing to their work, and so proud. And that is the kind of encouragement that I give to kids. I mean, I work with teenagers, and I have for over 25 years, I've been painting murals with young people. The same way when I was a teenager, people took me seriously, gave me opportunities, gallery shows, and all of that. I do the same for kids. Love putting them on the spot, bringing them out to some huge wall and watching the fear wash over their face as like, oh, we have to do that giant thing. Yeah, you do, and then you will. And when they do step up and do an amazing job, it's absolutely brilliant. So you guys can see the vast kind of work that I do, from painting inside museums to designing toys and fashion and all kinds of everything. The work has been nonstop. The demand continues coming and coming and coming. So I've had to learn and adapt to the business world of being an artist. And it does pay off, not ever having to have had like a real job or work for anyone like that, but the responsibilities is high. I run an art studio, I've got employees, my husband depends on me, I've got to keep the art going, keep it coming, keep the ideas coming, and the inspiration. I'm often asked, where does inspiration come from? I don't know. It's good grief. It comes from like everything you see, hear, and digest, and experiences, and even empathy for, you know, tragedies across the world, or whatever. It all comes to you, mushes up in your brain, and what artists spit out is something original and authentic, and from the heart and from the gut. Now we create whether people like it or not, and that happened pretty early on when we were painting subway trains. We didn't care. And today you still can't sit down and care. I know that students analyze my work in schools and such, but I can't have that in front of me. I also can't be painting for, you know, the dollars, for the money, and this is what's popular, this is what I'm going to paint. I can't do that either. You have to paint what's from the gut, it's from the heart. and things that I have to say. I have to get it out. I don't care if people show it, buy it, like it. All of that is irrelevant. I just have to say what I have to say. I'm feeling this way. And such, sometimes I'll paint something decorative that doesn't have too much meaning. This is based on Celtic lore, the green men, but I did a green woman. Her name is Lady of the Leaf. Very popular design. I have her on tote bags and pillowcases and all sorts of other objects. So what's important, people, if you're an artist or anything, copyright the work. Because what's in the public, what's in the street, folks think, oh, it's in the public, it belongs to me, I'm the public. I'll take a photo, profit from it, put it on t-shirts, make a book, and blah, blah, blah. No, you can't do that. It all belongs to the artist. Those are the rules. It all belongs, there's laws about that. So you can't just take a piece of art and profit from it. People believe that. So I encourage artists who do murals and do beautiful murals to copyright your work, and you'll be protected. You know, everything from a corporation running off with it and some other artists running off with it. So again, see, this is a college, and you can see this is where I can get away with doing sick and gnarly and twisted stuff. Out on the street, not nearly as much. This is a Black Lives Matter wall. We were putting the names of people who died at the hands of the police up on the wall. Kept putting names, and people kept shouting more names, and it was never ending. It was so sad. All these folks that had died mysteriously at the hands of the police. And we're often asked, do we know if this wall is still up in Ukraine? We painted in Kiev, Ukraine before the war. And I honestly don't know if my wall is still up. This was a chocolate factory in Kiev, Ukraine. That was an amazing place to paint, mind you. This is what it looked like when we were getting into the train yards. A bunch of ragtag teenagers sneaking into the train yards. You see there's a scout that's been sent up ahead first to check it out, and then the rest of the gang will follow. So we were doing like army training, playing cowboys and Indians, that kind of stuff, but for real, because you know people died and got arrested and got hurt and stuff. But this is the kind of stuff I paint with my assistants for fun. Give them good training, give them opportunity to use spray paint, and just beautify the neighborhood. This was for a charity that I painted. There was about 80 artists that painted these cows, and it all went to charity. It sold for like $11,000, and I'm so thrilled that I get to help charities that way. This is my subway village. When I get into very detailed brush paintings, this piece is about 5 feet square. There's 2 of them for a total of 10 feet. It takes me months to do this, months. And most graffiti writers, street artists don't have that kind of attention span. And I rarely do, honestly, the kind of patience and attention span it takes to do these pieces. But I've done a series of them, and it's a continuous run like that. Eventually, we'll fill a whole room, all 4 walls. It'll be amazing. This is what it looked like when we used to paint subway trains. We didn't have cameras or photos of our actual deeds, but it was a group team effort. You can see somebody under the train, there's a policeman, it's just a lot going on there. And I get the opportunity, and I'm an honor to paint in museums around the world, in galleries. Never imagined 40 years later we would be doing this. We were literally trying to figure out what to be when we grew up, and never imagined that we would be doing this now. And we are often asked, where do you see street art going in another 40 years? I would like to see lasers, and I want to carve into the moon. And I would also like to see, you know, giant crop circle graffiti, which is already happening. You know, I want to be flying over like Kansas or Tennessee or something and see it across your cornfields. It says pink, across a couple of counties. That's all I want. I'm not asking for much. So I have no idea where it's going to go. But where it is now, street art is the world's biggest art movement, bigger than the Renaissance, bigger than any other movement you can name, or even name them all together, and we are bigger. We've got thousands and hundreds of thousands of kids in every corner of the world doing illegal graffiti, legal stuff with permission, and just getting art out in the public. I don't know who made up the rule that art has to be in nice, lovely institutions with white walls and designated spaces, and you need a master's degree or some kind of a degree to be a bona fide artist. I don't know who made that up, but it is clear that all you need is a little bit of courage, a good design, some paint, and hopefully some permission, and you're good to go. And you too can beautify your own community, your own outdoors. See, this is a lovely 7-story hotel that my husband painted for me in Miami. They did that off of the rope scaffolding. Yeah, I was not doing that. But he is a lot braver than me, and a lot crazier. And then they did that for me. This is in the Saatchi Gallery of in London. That is pretty amazing. In all these lovely, lovely spaces that I've gotten to paint, and the wonderful thing, I get to bring my young assistants with me and show them the world. Well, after we painted in London there, I took my 2 young assistants over to Stonehenge for a day trip, just because it's cool to do these things and stuff. This entire block-long wall was painted by 3 females in 5 days. I know, we rock, we completely rock. We busted it out and stuff. So I do wonderful collaborations with Louis Vuitton, with Supreme, with Lancome. Like, she was saying, never imagined I would be invited to do these kinds of things. I mean, I couldn't never even afford to wear, Louis Vuitton or any of that. But no, they dressed me in $1,800 shirt, $900 pants, and made me paint in that. I was like, whoa, no, 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 that's insane. Great collaboration with Barbie. I designed this box here for some different shape Barbies. They were like extra tall, transgender, a little heavy, a little different shape Barbies and such. It was such a wonderful collaboration. I design all kinds of different things, from little toys to you name it. But me, myself, I am computer challenged. So I have a wonderful graphic designer who follows my every direction. It's like magic with the Photoshop and Illustrator, how they make these things happen. And that's just the modern world. And the things are not just hand done anymore. Everything's got to go into the computer one way or another. So yeah, without my graphic designer, I don't know how this would happen. The painting that this originated from, this is a Supreme collaboration. The painting was owned by Keith Haring. He bought that in 1985, and it'd been in his archives the whole time, because he died in 1985, Keith Haring. So they pulled it out and they sold it at Sotheby's on auction, Sotheby's, and raised $167,000 for charity on my one painting. And it all went to like a Boys and Girls Club that Keith Haring favored down in the city and such. It's such a thrill, again, to be able to help a charity and to help young people or anything like that with my skills and such. Yeah, so you know where I'm at. I painted that in So I painted that in 2017. That is old. I painted that in Miami, mind you, at Wynwood Walls, at the heart of the Wynwood district. And I was getting a lot of hate looks from people walking by, but I didn't let that fluster me. But I also had to explain to classes of African American kids how this president isn't very nice to people of minorities and people of color. And saying that to a bunch of young kids, it just broke my heart. And then this is where we're at again. But I'm not going to express my views here, because honestly, I was about to cancel this entire trip because of this state. But I'm a little salty. But this was last week when I was going on and on about cancel that. I don't want to. Anyway, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm dealing with it, and I realize that sometimes it's just better to, speak to folks and let them get to know you and such, and know our movement and understand where we're coming from. We do have sketchy beginnings. We have an unorthodox education and all, but we are now in the finest museums all over the world, and artists like Banksy can like literally deface a fountain in a medieval city, and you think that they should be sending a mob with pitchforks after him. No, they're like, oh, we love the fountain. We're going to keep it. This is great. This is where we're at. Now, street art is accepted in all circles, in all places. All kinds of folks are copying it and borrowing it and stealing from it. But, I'm glad to say that a lot of street artists have gone on to work in all the different fields, from fashion to advertising, and we're maintaining the entire integrity of our style and not allowing folks to just steal it and rob us and all of that. But it's a very humble beginnings, and then here we are. in this lovely, lovely space. And I'm absolutely honored to be invited, to be included in this, to have my kitty work being shown upstairs. My very first painting I did at the age of 16, my brush painting. The first time some guy gave me a canvas, some brushes, and acrylics and said, here, go, do your thing. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I painted myself sitting in jail with a couple of hookers, which I thought were hardcore criminals at the time. A couple of hookers on the side, and that was my primal fear of getting arrested for graffiti and getting thrown into jail and such. And so, you know how you feel like stuff you did at the age of 16 is not worthy? But no, it's sitting upstairs and it's sitting in the museum. It's okay. I have a painting right next to it I did at the age of 18, and that is the cover of the book. That is the cover of City's Canvas. And again, that is self-taught painting I did sitting in my mother's house, little by little, just figuring it out. And I don't know where the art talent comes from or where the gift for painting comes from. I often think that we are definitely channeling some dead artist. It's just coming through our hands doing something. I don't know where it's coming from, but there it is. It's doing it. So I don't know, honestly. You can't question it. You can't question what it is you're doing. If you overthink it, you're going to mess it up for sure. So you just got to go with your gut, go with your feeling, and let your hand do whatever it is that it's doing. And then it turns out into magic. Look at that. So, you know, if we have any questions in the audience, I would love to hear it. Anything that I didn't cover or didn't talk about or anything like that, I would love to hear it. Please, we have questions?
I have a ton.
Yeah, so let's start with one.
First of all, what was your birth name?
My real name is Sandra, but here in America, people don't say Sandra, they say Sandra. So please, I'd rather be called Pink. So this is how we drag you into our world. And it is insulting to be called by our birth names. When an artist has a chosen name, like Snoop Dogg, Ludacris, Queen Latifah, Madonna, Cher, whatever the hell, you call them by that name and not their birth name because that is insulting. You know, this is our chosen name. I've had this name for 44 years. And only my family and very, very close friends can call me Sandra.
So I have a question about when you were so young and little, how did you get up high? When you were running and hiding from police, how do you get the full length of your canvas?
You mean like on a subway train?
Yes, like on a train or how?
Well, on a subway train, you have to learn how to climb like a monkey. You have to learn how to open the doors so that you can paint outside the doors, out the window, upside down, clinging with your fingernails, standing on a 1-inch ledge. It literally, you have to do all kinds of maneuvers to try to get up there, you know, and climb and that. But doing canvases, we've got ladders, we've got scissor lifts, you know, all of that. When you're painting in the daytime, it's easy, but in the train yard, not so much. You have to try to maybe find a spot where there is a platform. So you're more on level and in tippy toes, I can reach the very, very top. So it's tough being small, let me tell you.
Thank you for being here.
Sure, thank you. Other questions, please? Anybody? Yeah.
I had a moment to speak with you, but you talked about the prep work. Tell us about the prep work it would take to just do one painting.
Do you mean a subway car or a painting? A subway car. So we had to prep by skipping school and running outside of the city because the 70s rioters had literally burnt all the shops in the city. So you couldn't even steal in New York City anymore. You had to go to Long Island, New Jersey, upstate New York, wherever. Anyway, make a day trip of it, fill up a car or shopping bags full of stolen spray paint. And it was a skill. You had to be taught how to properly do 5-finger discount without getting grabbed. So I was able to walk into a shop and walk out with 14 cans on my body. No bag. No bag. So, you know, I had a nice winter coat, did inside pockets, the sleeves. The long hair I grew so that I could cover the spray paint on my back. I had like a meter, 3 feet worth of long hair, and just so that it could cover the spray. Anyway, I was really, really good at lifting paint because they didn't suspect the girl. And we took advantage of that. So some of my minority friends would be in the shop over there handling the power tools. So they would get the hawk. They'd get the shop clerk watching them and not watching the girl with the art portfolio just bagging all that spray paint. Anyway, that is the prep work. Try not to get arrested while even prepping. And then somebody had to scout out and look at the train yard and location where you were going to see all the timing, when the trains come in, when the men are there, when the workers are there, when is it safe to go. You needed a scout, literally. So, all of this was very premeditated. And when that was happening, you knew when you had to go, and preferably at night. So I would sneak out of my mother's house, jumping out the window. First, I'd lower a bag of paint quietly to the backyard on a rope, and then I'd jump out the window and go to the worst neighborhood of New York City where they park the trains, and meet up with my friends. I had to travel with a knife and clean my fingernails on the subway to get those guys that were flirting with me to just go away. And they see a crazy little girl with a knife in the middle of the night on the subways, they're like, yeah, she's crazy, okay. So then because guys, they won't leave a pretty girl alone. They just try to get all friendly and stuff. So anyway, it was just a mission just to get to meet my friends. And then we'd have to infiltrate a train yard and sneak in, one way or another, like slippery rocks by a river or giant bushes and stuff like that, and get to the fence. And hopefully the hole is still there where you can go in through the hole. Otherwise, you got to climb over with your big bag of paint, all kinds of craziness. And then you're inside. And then you have to find a train that is acceptable to paint. Because you can't, 6,000 cars in New York City, every single one of them was already painted. So you had to go over somebody. And you couldn't leave some of it hanging out. You had to cover it completely. You can't go disrespecting somebody and leave a bit of their name hanging out. That's wrong. So, and then you spent all night long doing that, and hopefully you can make it back before your parents woke up and found out you were gone altogether. I was always successful at that. I'd try to sneak back in, and I'd cross the face in the dark. I wouldn't even see it coming. So my mother had a difficult time dealing with me, sneaking out of the house and all of that. She didn't get to sleep very much. Always worried about getting that phone call, and crazy daughter running out at night. She had, I had two sisters, and they were good. They stayed home. They didn't rebel. I somehow had, some kids just have that. They need to rebel and need to, test their limits and strengths and all of that, and go out there and then do their thing, blaze your trails, right? Well-behaved women never make history. That's just what I've been told. Yes, question here.
Is there any surface that would be considered sacrosanct?
Churches, synagogues, holy institutions. You would never do that. But my generation, we were singularly focused on subway trains. We didn't do buildings, houses, or anything like that. We practiced on handball courts, public walls, maybe a little bit, but it was subway trains. In the 90s, when things came above ground and everyone was doing streets and getting legal permission spots and all of that, it is still sacrilegious to do a temple, a church, or anything like that, because you will burn in hell. So, kids know that. They have respect for that. So, yes, honey.
Hi, there is a movie with, it should be a documentary with you and your character, Lee Quinones.
That's the movie Wild Style.
Wild Style.
Yes.
Is it you, but it's visibly?
Yes.
So everybody is.
So the very first movie, Wild Style, was filmed in '82 with a budget of $25,000. Literally, an independent film with no budget. Nobody got paid, only the few people who were indispensable. And the director, Charlie Ahern, who is still a dear friend today, he just wrote everyone in the movie as he saw it. He saw the love story between myself and Lee. He put that into the movie. He met the break dancers. I brought them to a birthday party. He loved the break dancers. They were in the movie, rock steady. And everyone that he met. So he wrote the script around what was happening in real life, and everyone played themselves. There was no actors in that. There's a couple of muggers there. They mugged Lee and this blonde lady. Those were actual muggers with an actual shotgun. Yeah, no, it was authentic, man. So, but then on the other hand, I can't watch that movie because that was a love story. It gave me nightmares for years, man. I can't. It was very stormy relationship, very, very strong personalities per se, and we have this big long wet kiss. Ew. Well, thank you. Thank you for the city for keeping up the legacy of bringing art to the masses and putting art where it's unorthodox and unexpected. Sometimes, the lower class neighborhoods never see any culture. They don't barely have time to come to these lovely institutions. They're just making ends meet. So when we bring murals to, these neighborhoods, they're so appreciative. They so love it. I get to charge an arm and a leg for the commissions on the insides. And then that makes up for it, that we can donate murals to the more needy neighborhoods. And it all balances out. You rob the rich so that you can give to the poor. You know that old. It's pretty awesome. So, okay. Well, thanks so much for that question.
You mentioned Keith Haring.
Yeah.
Who were some of your earliest collectors?
Some of the earliest collectors was one of these, Martin Wong, who donated all this artwork here. But some of the earliest collectors, even the Brooklyn Museum, Sidney Janis on 57th Street, Barbara Gladstone over down on the Soho. There was a whole lot of collectors, some names that I didn't even know or anything like that. So I sold my very first painting for $500 to some lovely woman on the Upper West Side, and I got to visit my painting in her apartment, which was a very wealthy woman, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is what I want. This is this opened my eyes. This is a new world here, and I like. So that gives you a drive to try to get there someday. So from just beginning collectors to collectors who are profiting now and recirculating the work, and they hope. It's unfortunate that fine art is a commodity. It is like the stock market. Sometimes it's just absolute crap, but it just matters what the history of the artist and the career, and that the work just the value keeps going up. Some art is bought and just put into storage because it's not nice enough to hang in your own home. It's just there for the commodity, for the value, and they're hoping it will ripen and they can profit from it later on down the road and make an investment and make a profit. So that's not what art should be for. Art should be there to lift spirits and to, liven and become part of the fabric of your life and give you pleasure. Art should be, for different reasons. It's not just the stock market like a commodity. And that's how it's become. And it's pretty awful. So in a way, it's great to just keep it pure and just give it to the neighborhood like that and just set it free and give it as a gift to people. Share your talents with other folks. And that's what is more worthwhile than, but our work has been in fine collections since very early on. There has been no dispute or argument about whether this is art or not. The institutions, they called it contemporary art pretty long ago, and that's what it is, contemporary art. Even when it's illegal, it's still art. It's just not where it belongs. No, unfortunately, everything is planned to the very little last detail on paper, and then we project it. So outdoors, we sometimes use a grid, or if it's dark enough, we will use a projector, but I use a projector, especially for the commissions. What a client orders is exactly what they're getting because we're projecting this. So not less, not more. It's exactly that. So it saves a lot of time, especially with the detailed pieces. For this, I couldn't get the projector to work properly. I had to freehand that baby. But it's still possible for, we've got a knack for spatial, knowing space and how big to do things and such from years of experience. But it's always planned. Sometimes even my graphic designer gets involved and plans these things for me. Like I have stickers of these guys. My graphic designer, smoothed out the designs and put it in Illustrator, and I've got little stickers of that. Here, the piece in the center is mine. Those little flowers, those daisies, were painted by Eve Plum. That is John Brady from the Brady Bunch. I often quote that the Brady Bunch, Charlie's Angels from the 70s, were my inspiration for being a feminist and such. And then I got to get Eve Plum to come out and paint with us. She was painting one of those cows for charity, and that's where I met her. And I roped her in to come out and paint with us. And she did all her little flowers everywhere. And, I draw everything out to scale. It's all planned. Even when we're just painting stuff in the street, it's still a pencil sketch. I get that scan and then, print it out, have it in my pocket and such. Working with students, everyone gets a printout of their design in a grid so they know everything that's going on. So working in the street or anywhere, it's just so much faster when you're well planned. There's no time to just stand there and make things up or change your mind, or you go there and bang it out as fast as you possibly can. So I moved out of Astoria 11 years ago. I'm in upstate New York in the country now, but they won't let me go. They keep making me come back and paint those walls again and keep that neighborhood lively. I'm like, that's not my neighborhood anymore. I don't live there. I sold my house. They're like, yeah, but you can't let the walls, fall apart. So I do work with schools. I come out with the schools and paint these walls over again and keep the neighborhood beautiful. They won't let me go. I suppose part of the system. I'm a professional artist. I work. The legal side of everything. I work with students. I don't encourage them to rebel or go out and do illegal work. I can't condone that. I can't condone that. We do need rebels. We need rebels to speak up, stand up when the status quo, when things are stagnant, when stuff is going wrong. We need rebels to stand up and speak up. That is a given. Our country wouldn't even be here if we didn't have those our those forefathers, those free thinkers that started this nation all together. And that stands to, we still need that. And what did the rebels achieve? Those graffiti vandals, what did we manage to do? We got artwork out into public. And it's worldwide. It has poured out of the institutions and the galleries, and it's in every neighborhood. It's on trains in Berlin and Rome. It's everywhere. So we have brought art to everyone, I suppose, and that is our gift. Well, thank you for actually experiencing some of the street art earlier on. We never imagined it would be here, but here we go. And I encourage everyone to go out and decorate their exteriors, their neighborhoods. There's no such thing as you have to live with this nonsense. Alter it, paint it, color it, ask for some permission, and make things happen and beautify your community, please. Oh, I get, full control, artistic control. And, these guys are paying like $100,000 to collaborate with them. So, it's a pretty easy collaboration when I'm given free reign to do whatever. But Louis Vuitton, they also bought one of my paintings and paid like 3 times the amount because they wanted the rights to it. So, Louis Vuitton can do whatever he wants with that painting. Clothes, bags, shoes, it's all good. So, but you do have to pick and choose what corporations you will work for. I won't work for cigarette companies. I don't do murals and profit from the dead. Those kind of things. You do have to have kind of principles along the line. But it is good to stay relevant with young people. So collaborations with Supreme and others, it's just wonderful. But yeah, I do get some control. But some corporations will water down and soften our work a little bit. So, it's not all, wonderful, but the kind of payment that they give you, it's all right. It's all right. Okay, thank you all. Thank you all.